about the expansion of wild pigs is that they're starting to make their way into the northeastern states. And they can't be stopped. They can survive in any weather. They breed 3 times a year. They're viable, I think, from the time they're 5 to 6 months old, they have their first litter.
Deep in the bayous of Louisiana, a shadow moves through the dense brush. It is not a bear or a panther. It is a 400-pound wild boar with razor-sharp tusks and an appetite that destroys everything in its path. You can hear its heavy breathing before you even see it. What started in 1493, when Christopher Columbus brought just 8 hogs to the New World as live rations, has morphed into America's most aggressive biological nightmare. Today, over 6 million feral hogs plague 35 states. But right here in Louisiana, ground zero, they have conquered all 64 parishes. Nearly 900,000 swine are tearing through this land, capable of doubling their population in just 4 months if given enough food. This is no longer just a wildlife issue. It is a full-scale invasion that is bleeding the state dry. If you want to see how this silent war unfolds, hit that subscribe button right now and join us as we uncover the truth. Walk into a sugarcane field in Iberia Parish at dawn, and you might hear a sound that makes any farmer's stomach drop. It is not the rumble of a tractor or the rush of wind through the crops. It is the rhythmic, crunching noise of dozens of Razorback hogs chewing through stalks of cane, followed by a low, guttering grunt that echoes across the dark soil. When local farmer Jack Miller stepped out onto his acreage last harvest season, he did not find a lush crop ready for cutting. He found absolute devastation. Whole rows of sugarcane were flattened, ripped up by the roots, and trampled into gray slush. In his own words, it looked like a fleet of heavy bulldozers had driven through his property in the dead of night, smashing everything in sight just for the fun of it. That single night cost Jack tens of thousands of dollars, and his story plays out every single day across the Pelican State. This is not just a nuisance for folks living out in the country. It is a full-blown financial disaster that hits every single grocery store and farm supply shop in the region. Every single year, feral hogs inflict a staggering $91.1 million in damage on Louisiana agriculture and forestry. Think about that number for a second. $91 million wiped clean off the books. Sugarcane takes the absolute hardest hit, losing around $14.8 million annually to these relentless beasts. Right behind sugarcane, corn and rice farmers watch their hard-earned profits vanish into the mud as entire fields are wiped out in a matter of hours. These animals operate like living bulldozers, using their thick snouts to plow up the earth, destroying root systems and leaving fields completely ruined for future planting. Where are you watching this video from? Please tell us your country or city in the comments, and let's explore together. If the financial destruction stopped at the edge of the farm fields, it would already be a catastrophe. But these hogs do not care about property lines, and their rampage extends deep into the ancient, fragile swamps that define southern Louisiana. Wild boars act like resource vacuum cleaners. When they move into a wetland, they wallow in the shallows to cool off, tearing up native vegetation and turning clear creeks into thick, murky soup. By churning up the sediment, they destroy the underwater plants that filtered the water for generations. Worse yet, their waste poisons the waterways, with dangerous levels of coliform bacteria, creating toxic dead zones where fish, crawfish, and native amphibians simply cannot survive. The native wildlife never stood a chance against an invader this aggressive. Take the American alligator, the undisputed king of the bayou. For centuries, nothing challenged the alligator's reign at the top of the food chain. But feral hogs have completely flipped that hierarchy on its head. Hogs possess an incredible sense of smell, allowing them to track down alligator nests hidden deep in the marsh grass. They dig up the muddy mounds and devour the eggs before they can hatch. Biologists estimate that wild pigs destroy at least 15,000 young alligators every single year. They are literally eating the future of the bayou, wiping out generations of native predators before they ever get a chance to reach the water. From native deer to wild turkeys, local animals find themselves completely squeezed out. Wild boars eat everything in sight, consuming acorns, roots, small mammals, and bird eggs. When food gets scarce, an angry 400-pound hog will aggressively chase white-tailed deer away from feeding sites, monopolizing the landscape through sheer brute force. They leave behind an empty, polluted wasteland where native species used to thrive. As these beasts continue to tear through crop fields and swamp ecosystems alike, everyone is asking the exact same question. Can Mother Nature step in and fix this broken balance on her own? Or are we facing a monster that truly has no natural equal? When you look at a problem this massive, your first thought might be that nature will eventually sort itself out. After all, North America has its own apex predators. We have coyotes prowling the tree lines, bobcats lurking in the brush, and panthers roaming the deep swamps. You would think these native hunters would see an explosion of wild pork as an absolute jackpot, a bottomless buffet ready for the taking. But if you stand on the edge of a Louisiana timber lot at dusk, you will see a harsh reality unfold. A hungry coyote sneaks through the tall grass, its eyes locked onto a group of small piglet dots moving near the brush. It moves closer, step by step, ready to pounce on an easy meal. But the second a 400-pound boar turns around, lowers its massive head, and flashes razor-sharp tusks, that coyote stops dead in its tracks. It does not attack. It tucked its tail, turns right around, and slips away into the shadows. That short moment shows you everything you need to know about this broken ecosystem. Predators like coyotes, bobcats, and black bears can only target tiny piglets that wander too far from the sounder. Against an adult wild boar, they are completely useless. A fully grown boar is a muscular tank wrapped in thick leather hide, armed with sharp tusks capable of slicing through bone. No local predator in its right mind is going to risk a fatal injury for a meal when easier prey is around. Instead of keeping the hog population in check, native animals are the ones getting pushed to the brink. Take the white-tailed deer and wild turkeys that have called these hardwoods home for thousands of years. During the autumn months, when oak trees drop acorns across the forest floor, a fierce competition begins for those crucial calories. Under normal conditions, native wildlife shares these natural resources. But when a herd of feral hogs moves in, the rules completely change. These hogs do not share. They roll through like an armored division, vacuuming up every single acorn, root, and berry in sight. If an adult white-tailed deer tries to step up to a feeding spot, a dominant boar will instantly charge, slashing with its tusks and violently tossing the deer out of the way. Wild turkeys fare even worse. Hogs do not just steal their food, they actively hunt down turkey nests, crushing the eggs and destroying entire future generations of birds in a single night. You might be thinking that high piglet mortality could save us. Out in the harsh wild, nature is brutal. Disease, harsh weather, and occasional predation take a massive toll. In fact, wildlife biologists estimate that up to 60% of all wild piglets die before reaching adulthood. In almost any other animal species, a 60% loss rate would cause the population to plummet toward extinction. In the world of wild hogs, that 60% loss is nothing more than a minor bump in the road. Evolution built these creatures to be ultimate reproduction machines. A mature sow can breed as early as 6 months old. She carries her litter for just 114 days, gives birth to a massive brood, and can get pregnant again almost immediately after weaning. That means a single female can produce 2 full litters every single year, yielding anywhere from 8 to 14 piglets total. Do the math on that math for a moment. Even if more than half of those piglets perish in the mud, the surviving females grow up fast and start reproducing at 6 months. The math is relentless. The sheer speed of their breeding cycle easily crushed whatever resistance nature tries to throw at them. Mother Nature has effectively thrown up her hands and surrendered. With native predators completely outmatched and local wildlife losing the war for resources, the burden falls entirely on human shoulders. If these beasts are going to be stopped, Konmui must step into the arena and fight back. If you are enjoying this deep dive into America's wild invasion, take a quick second to hit that subscribe button right now. Your support helps us bring you more unbelievable stories from the front lines of nature. Now, as landowners and wildlife officials gear up for battle, they quickly realize they are not fighting dumb animals. They are up against an incredibly intelligent enemy, a creature smart enough to spot a trap from a mile away and learn from our mistakes. How do you catch a monster that knows you are hunting it? When you first realize your property is infested with wild boars, your instinct as an American sportsman is simple. Grab your rifle, head out into the woods, and start hunting. For generations, recreational hunting has been the go-to response for managing wildlife. Thousands of hunters head into the Louisiana swamps every year, spending cold nights in tree stands, using high-powered rifles, night vision scopes, and thermal optics to harvest wild pigs. It feels like you are making a real difference when you haul a couple of massive boars out of the mud. But when wildlife managers run the cold, hard numbers, the truth hits like a ton of bricks. Recreational hunting barely scratches the surface. At best, sport hunting eliminates less than 50% of a local hog population each year. In almost any other wildlife management scenario, culling half the population would send numbers crashing down. But remember, these pigs can double their numbers in 4 months. To actually break the growth cycle and cause a population decline, wildlife experts calculate that we must eradicate 70 to 75% of all feral hogs every single year, without fail. When hunters show up with dogs and guns, they kill a few animals, but they scatter the rest across miles of dense forest. The surviving pigs quickly learn that human smell equals danger. They go completely nocturnal, retreat into impenetrable swamps, and become vastly more cautious. Traditional hunting does not solve the hog problem. It simply creates smarter, more elusive pigs. To get anywhere near that critical 75% threshold, wildlife agencies and fed-up farmers had to completely abandon traditional methods and turn to high-tech warfare on the ground. Enter the strategy known as whole sounder removal. A sounder is the family unit of wild hogs, usually consisting of a few mature sows and several generations of their offspring. If you want to eliminate pigs from a property, you cannot just capture 2 or 3 individuals at a time. If even one single hog escapes a trap, that survivor becomes what trappers call trap-shy. It learns how the mechanism works, avoids bait stations forever, and passes that extreme paranoia down to every single piglet it ever raises. One missed hog can ruin an entire trapping program for years. To pull off whole sounder removal, trappers rely on massive circular steel enclosures paired with state-of-the-art cellular technology. Picture a trapper sitting in his living room late at night, miles away from his property, staring at the glowing screen of his smartphone. Out in the pitch-black woods, a high-definition infrared camera sits mounted on a tree, beaming a live video feed directly to his phone via cellular data. Inside the frame, a huge circular corral trap stands open, loaded with sweet corn and scent attractants. A family group of 15 or 20 hogs slowly wanders out of the tree line. They do not burst in all at once. The older, experienced sows stand guard at the perimeter, sniffing the air for any sign of danger, while sending the young piglets inside first to test the waters. This is a game of extreme patience. The trapper watches his screen, heartbeat pounding, waiting for the exact right moment. If he triggers the trap too early, the dominant matriarch sow will stay outside, leading a new generation of super smart pigs deeper into the swamp. 5 minutes pass. 10 minutes pass. Slowly, driven by greed and the smell of fermented corn, the cautious big sows finally step inside the ring. Once every single tail is inside the boundary, the trapper taps a single button on his phone screen. A high-frequency signal shoots up to a satellite and zaps down to a receiver mounted on the trap. Clang! A massive, heavy steel drop gate crashes to the muddy ground with a violent, deafening metallic thud. Instantly, absolute chaos erupts inside the circle. 400-pound hogs hurl their massive bodies against the steel mesh panel walls, squealing and kicking up clouds of dirt in a desperate effort to break free. But the high-strength steel structure holds firm. The entire sounder has been captured in one single coordinated strike. leaving 0 survivors behind to learn from the experience or report back to the woods. This combination of smart camera feeds and heavy steel enclosures has revolutionized control efforts across Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. On private farmland and managed timber lots where vehicles can easily roll in, these giant mechanical traps have wiped out whole herds in a matter of weeks. Yet, as successful as these ground traps are on accessible farmland, they run into a massive brick wall when they hit the deep, untouched wilderness. Louisiana is defined by millions of acres of bottomland hardwoods, floating marshland, and impenetrable cypress swamps where roads simply do not exist. You cannot haul heavy steel trap panels or hundreds of pounds of corn bait into a swamp where the mud swallows boots whole and the water runs 5 feet deep. Out in those endless, roadless wetlands, wild hog herds continue to multiply completely undisturbed by ground operations. If humans were ever going to take the fight to the pigs hiding in the deepest corners of the state, they would have to leave the mud behind and take the war directly to the skies. When you step into the vast flooded wilderness of southern Louisiana, you quickly realize that human boots can only take you so far. Millions of acres of marshland, cypress swamps, and muddy bayous create an impenetrable sanctuary for feral hogs. Ground traps and foot patrols are completely helpless here. If you want to purge these beasts from the deep wilderness, you have to elevate the battlefield. You have to take the war into the clouds. High above the cypress tree line, a low, thrumming vibration cuts through the humid air. The chopping sound grows louder, rattling the very leaves on the trees, as a lightweight turbine helicopter comes banking over the treetops. Inside the stripped-down cabin sits a specialized team from USDA Wildlife Services. The side door is completely removed, exposing the shooter directly to the rushing wind. Strapped into a heavy-duty safety harness, a marksmanship expert leans out into the slipstream, holding a semi-automatic shotgun loaded with heavy buckshot. This is aerial gunning, and it is the single most aggressive tactic ever deployed in the history of invasive species control. From 300 feet up, the flooded marsh opens up like a massive tactical map. Down in the knee-deep water, black paths cut through the green vegetation, revealing the exact movement trails of feral swine. When the helicopter hovers over an open marsh, the hogs panic. The sound of the rotor blades overhead echoes like thunder, sending massive herds, sometimes 30 or 40 animals, strong, bursting out of the high reeds into open water. The helicopter drops low, skimming just 20 feet above the muddy surface, banking hard as the pilot aligns the craft with the running sounder. The gunner takes aim, working with rhythmic, calculated precision. Every pull of the trigger takes down a target, neutralizing massive boars and fast-moving sows in seconds. The sheer numbers produced by this airborne strategy are staggering. Since 2005, aerial gunning has accounted for a whopping 65% of all feral hogs eradicated by Wildlife Services across the entire state of Louisiana. Nothing else on the ground even comes close to matching that kind of scale. When an airborne unit targets a specific marsh sector, the initial shockwave is devastating to the local hog population. In a single afternoon flight, a skilled helicopter crew can wipe out 31% of the entire local herd right on the spot. When those same crews conduct follow-up sweeps over the next few days, picking off the scattered survivors, that elimination rate skyrockets to nearly 70%. Think about the sheer speed of that operation. A single ground-trapping team might take weeks of pre-baiting and monitoring just to capture 15 pigs. A helicopter crew, on the other hand, can cover up to 5,000 acres in a single day, eliminating dozens of sounders before the sun goes down. If you are fascinated by how modern technology and extreme tactical measures are fighting back against nature's biggest threats, hit that subscribe button right now. Joining our community helps us bring you more wild stories from the front lines of wildlife warfare. Yet, even with high-powered shotguns and specialized aircraft, aerial hunting is not a magic bullet. It is an extraordinarily expensive and grueling operation. Aviation fuel, specialized helicopter maintenance, highly trained pilots, and professional shooters cost thousands of dollars per flight hour. State agencies and private landowners simply cannot afford to keep choppers in the air every single day of the year. On top of the astronomical price tag, airborne operations are completely at the mercy of Mother Nature. Fog, heavy rain, and high wind conditions instantly ground the choppers. Worse yet, as soon as the summer months hit and the forest canopy fills out with dense green leaves, the thick tree cover shields the hogs from above. A herd of 50 wild pigs can hide under a dense pine or hardwood canopy, completely invisible to pilots flying right over their heads. The airborne campaign is a brilliant, high-powered offensive assault. It crushes hog numbers in open marshland and buys precious time for local ecosystems. But eradication alone is only half the battle. You can eliminate thousands of hogs from the sky, but if neighboring populations can simply stroll back onto your farm the very next day, all those millions of spent dollars go right down the drain. To protect our crops and save our native land for the long haul, humanity needs more than just aggressive firepower from above. We need a permanent, unbreakable line of defense on the ground. Driving past a lush cornfield in southern Louisiana, you might notice a solid steel fence stretching into the horizon. Standing 28 to 34 inches tall, this barrier blocks heavy feral hogs from ruining crops while letting native white-tailed deer leap right over to maintain ecological balance. Meanwhile, scientists at the LSU Ag Center are testing targeted toxins like sodium nitrite alongside genetic fertility controls. Coupled with local bounty programs offering $5 per pigtail, humanity is mobilizing every resource available. Yet, this relentless battle carries a deeper truth that reaches far beyond farm borders. Louisiana teaches us a profound lesson about life. Small oversights, left ignored, can grow into overwhelming forces that disrupt our world. Balance requires active vigilance, commitment, and foresight. If we stop fighting for what matters for even a single season, the ground we lose might never be recovered. Protect your boundaries, cherish nature's delicate balance, and never underestimate how tiny choices today shape tomorrow. Total annual damage, $91,100,000. Current population, nearly 900,000 strong. The silent invasion rages on. What is your take on this ongoing war against invasive species? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.